Welcome to your Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin, and this is episode 1. I'm so excited you're here. We're going to be talking a lot about our stories, what made us who we are, and how we can turn that into our biggest successes in life. When I was young, my mom taught me a simple prayer that I didn't realize would shape the entirety of my life. It was to be placed in the path of those who needed help. For years, I thought that meant helping in small, everyday ways. But recently, I came to the deeper realization that lifelong prayer was the catalyst for every hardship I've ever faced. Each struggle, each loss was shaping me, preparing me to help others in a bigger way. It's been a journey of learning resilience, empathy, and strength, but now I'm here to share those stories to help others find hope in their darkest moments, and to show that even the hardest trials can lead us to our deeper purpose. I'm your host, Caitlin, and I cannot tell you how much it means to me that you're joining me here for episode 1 of your Breakthrough Podcast. I grew up very Mormon. My mom is they're still very religious, but me and 2 of my other siblings are not in the church anymore. I love the way that I grew up. I've got a lot of respect for the church and the way that I was raised. Has anyone had a story so big that they had to share it? Or something that you've been through that you know would help someone else if they could just hear it? That's where I've been the last 15 years of my life, and I'm so grateful to be in a position now to share this story with you in hopes that you can relate, that it could possibly heal something in you, and that you can turn your struggles into the story that causes your success. When I was 5 years old, it was Christmas time, my mom took me and my 4 siblings down to downtown Phoenix. And if you've ever been to downtown Phoenix, there's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of homeless people, and it's just grown since I was a little girl. But she took part of our Christmas budget, and she bought a bunch of blankets, and we started dispersing them around downtown, finding a group of people, giving them a few blankets. And I had never done anything like that before. I was 5 years old, and that was my first introduction to charity and what charity feels like, the impact that it can have on people. And it just so happened to be a super, super cold winter. And I remember it just being cold and being happy that we could give these people a blanket. I couldn't picture what it would be like to be living outside right now, especially around Christmas time, and not even having a blanket to keep you warm. So as the night went on, we gave away almost all the blankets. We had 1 left. And so as a family, we drove through downtown Phoenix and decided who was going to get the last blanket. We gave the blanket away, and as soon as we did, a man ran up to my parents' van, and asked for a blanket. We didn't have any more. And he was so overwhelmed with cold and hunger that he was just desperate. And my mom was like, "We don't have any more blankets. I'm sorry. Maybe you can share with your friend." He's like, "No, you don't understand. I need a blanket." And he started crying, and he chased after our car. And I remember driving away with that man chasing after our car, begging for a blanket. And as a tiny 5-year-old kid, that changed something in me. I enjoyed the night and the experience of giving away those blankets and the charity. I loved my mom for giving us that experience. But when I got home, I was kind of sad. Normally my dad would tuck me in, but that night my mom did. She went up to my room and she's like, "Why are you so upset? We did so much good." And I'm like, "We did, but I'm really hurting for this guy, and it won't leave my mind that he was chasing after our car." And she's like, "You want to know what I do?" And this is something that I didn't know about my mom, and something that I have loved and adored about my mom ever since. Because since she told me what she does and what I need to do to be able to help more people, it makes a lot of sense. My mom has been in some pretty incredible situations where she's putting herself in danger to help someone else, and I've kind of adapted the same. When I was going to bed, she told me, "You know what I do every night? Before I go to bed, in my prayers, or really every time I pray, I ask my Father in heaven to help me be in the path of anyone who might need me, whether that's an accident, someone who might need some financial assistance, someone who needs help reaching something on a grocery store aisle, like literally anything." She's like, "But if you want to pray every single night to be in the path of people who need your help, you will always be in the path of people who need your help. That's how I want you to live your life. If you loved the feeling of tonight and you want to do more good, you can feel better about what happened tonight and that man not getting a blanket by saying your prayers every night and making sure you pray to be in the path and be helpful." I had no idea what that chain of events or what that prayer as a 5-year-old little girl would lead to in my life. I had no idea what it was leading to in my life until about a year ago. I've been through some extraordinary things that should have broken me or could have broken me, but I didn't ever take it as something happening against me or to me. I don't know why I've been blessed with the ability to kind of see past the hurt and pain and use it for my betterment. And in my life, every single difficult thing that I've been through, at some point or another, I've had someone come up to me or come into my life dealing with something similar and struggling in a way that they didn't know how to cope with what was happening to them. And I felt incredibly equipped to help them. I felt like I could relate, I could speak to what they were feeling, and I could offer that gift of resilience, I guess, is what my mom calls it, that I could help them through it. I've been told numerous times that I should do a podcast or a book, and you hear that and you kind of brush it off. You brush it off because why would anyone want to listen to my podcast? Why would anyone want to read my book? We all have those thoughts, right? I've had it in my heart to create a podcast for years, and I do want to write a book, but a little timeline of me growing up. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I've got 3 older sisters and an older brother, really close with my older brother and my next oldest sister. When I was young, we moved a lot. My parents built their own houses, and we had to move rental houses over and over. I didn't go to the same school for longer than 2 years, and I didn't really have a place. I didn't feel like I knew anybody, and every time I'd start to make a few friends, we would move again, and that was difficult. But we finally moved to this house on Bluefield Road. We were renting this house, had a big tennis court next to it, had a ton of kids in this neighborhood, and I was so excited to finally be somewhere where I had friends in the neighborhood, not just having to meet them at school. And my parents, being very religious, brought my brother and I back a necklace that spelled our name in Hebrew. And we loved them. We thought it was so cool. They went to Egypt for their honeymoon, or their wedding anniversary. They came back, gave us these necklaces. And we had a friend that lived down the street. He was really big for his age. I think he was 6'1". He was my brother's age, so 4 years older than me. And I was 11. So he sees my brother with the necklace on, and he pushes him off his bike, and he grabs his necklace and he tears it off, and he says, "I'm going to be like Hitler, and I'm going to kill and torture all the Jews." And my brother was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, he beat the crap out of my brother. And those necklaces were Hebrew. He knew that we were Mormon. He knew that we were religious, but he had no concept of why he was so angry at us. His dad was a really rough guy. His dad was an alcoholic, and I always felt for him. But having our friend who would play with us and play tag, like, do that to my brother was shocking to me. And in between the next thing that he did to my family, he molested me. I had no idea what anything even was. In a religious family, you never talk about things like that. And that happened to me. It's a whole nother podcast episode that I would like to bring that up, because I know a lot of people have dealt with things like this. But after beating my brother up and that happening, we woke up in the morning. I think it was a Friday. My whole family woke up. My dad was leaving for work early in the morning, and he comes running back inside to tell us that there were huge 10-foot red spray-painted swastikas and anarchy symbols. Anarchy symbols and swastikas, huge, all over our house, taking up the whole garage, the side of the house. He sprayed everything he could, and it was so hateful that the news was called to do it, and it actually made national news as a religious hate crime. After they're investigating and taking all these pictures of the spray paint, they discovered 4 separate spots where he tried to burn the house down with us all in it. I don't know where that kid is now. We went to court over beating my brother up. We went to court for him trying to murder us, all 7 of us in our house. And he did serve a little bit of time, and he got probation. And thankfully, we moved immediately after that. But what happened to me never went to trial or anything, because it's all what I said versus what he said. But as an 11-year-old, a very religious girl, that was an incredibly difficult thing to go through and speak to my parents and speak to a detective using those kind of words. Like, so scary. And I want to have another episode about that because there's so many people who have never gotten to speak about things that have happened to them that they could probably heal if they could open up or even tell one person. So that moment changed my relationship with my parents a lot, because as a super religious family, a religious kid, like after something like that happens, it kind of just shifts things. And if anyone's grown up in a really religious family, maybe you can understand what I'm talking about. But I feel like I grew up into an adult at 12 years old. After all that happened, something in me shifted where I realized I think I need to take care of myself. And I think I need to take care of a lot of other people too, because a lot of people in my family and in my world were hurting at that time. I went through my life, trying to be a good kid, going to church. I really was a good kid. I never snuck out one single time in my life. And finally, around 16 years old, my parents' religious views were just not allowing me to live my life. I had student council, I was in the musicals, I was in all-state choir, I was in dance, I had a job. That's another podcast episode that I'm excited to talk about, my little mini jobs since I was 10 years old. But I had a job and I was super excited about it on top of all the school things I was doing, and my mom grounded me. Sorry, Mom, this is true. Grounded me for coming home from work late. And I was like, I have to close. They're tanning. I was working at a tanning bed. I'm like, they have to tan and then I have to finish cleaning up and then I have to close. But I got grounded and I was not going to be able to go to my friend's mission farewell because he's Mormon. He was leaving on his mission. I was going to miss play practice. I was going to miss work. I was literally freaking out about what I was going to do. And I called my brother and I said, I cannot disobey Mom. I can't just not come home and do whatever I need to do, but I can't miss these things. Can I move in with you? And my brother, who had just moved out of the house at 20 years old, came and picked me up. I took one backpack. I threw a couple outfits in there, a pair of shoes, a little bit of makeup, my school backpack, and I moved out of my house at 16 years old. That nearly destroyed my family. I was the youngest child, and I got really, really misunderstood why I moved out. My whole life I was told, you're so dramatic, you ruined the family. That wasn't why. I truly, truly moved out because I did not want to disrespect my parents. I wasn't going to be the kid that just didn't listen, who just came home whenever. I wasn't going to sneak out. I wasn't going to do that. And I felt like it would be more respectful for me to move out and try to take care of myself on my own than to put them through that turmoil. After I tried to negotiate the rules and they're like, nope, this is what's happening, you're grounded. I was like, okay, I guess I got to move out. And maybe that was a young way of thinking, 16 years old. But I moved out. And as you can imagine, moving out at 16 years old without any experience in the world, not knowing what drugs are, not knowing what sex are, not knowing what alcohol is, knowing nothing, I had a tremendous time and went through way more than a kid should go through. And there's not a single thing that I regret because this is who I am. The experiences that I have under my belt in order to help my own children in the ways that I was never helped are extraordinary. They're worth everything to me. Anything that I've been through is something that I am actively helping my 15-year-old daughter Lily with while she's in high school right now at almost the exact same age I was when I moved out. I have so much love for little me because I am who she is right now, or I was who she is right now, and I'm watching, and I'm so grateful that I get to give her what I didn't have. She will never feel what I felt. She will never go through what I went through. And I have so much love for my mom. She took her job as mom so seriously, so seriously. I just went out with her for her birthday, and she doesn't get teary-eyed very often, but she sat at the table at lunch with me, and I'm telling her some of these extreme stories that I'm going to be telling on this podcast. I'm like, Mom, I'm going to rock your socks right now. I have to just drop some things on you because I'm going to be talking about this on the podcast, and I don't want you to hear it there first. So I'm going to tell you the story about the first time I drank. I'm going to tell you the story about the first time I smoked weed. Both of these are extreme stories. And I'm like, these are some things that happened that you need to know about. I'm going to tell you about it. And she got teary-eyed and she's like, you hear people say that they have regrets about how they raise their kids or whatnot. And I don't think she needs to have regrets. She doesn't have regrets. But my mom looked me and my sister Haley in her eyes and she's like, I took being a mom so seriously, and maybe a little too seriously, but I was doing the best that I could. Within the religious parameters that we were raised in and everything, I could feel that she loved me so much. Regardless of what we've been through or how I was raised or how I handled it, my mom loves me, and she did the best she could, and she took it very seriously. And that healed something in me. And I'm grateful that I get to have that line, that she took it very seriously, as I tell some of these stories, because I love you very much, Mom, and I don't want you to be hurt by anything that I talk about. So moved out. She asked me to come home. I told her that I would not. I got 2 jobs. I worked full time. I rode the city bus and pretended that I was deaf because I was young, and there were people. Oh my gosh, the fan is like so loud right now. You just turned it off. Did you guys hear that fan going this whole time? So I used to fake being deaf on the city bus because I was a little girl having to ride to school with grown men, being weird and creepy in like East Glendale, not a good area. So it's embarrassing to tell, but it really did save me. But I was taking the city bus. I still graduated early. I worked 2 jobs. I felt like I was a grown woman. And after I had my first little drinking episode, I started drinking just a little bit. I started working at a job, K Jewelers, and I got promoted. Turns out I was incredibly good at sales, and that was such a blessing for me to be so young and like have a job where I'm actually making decent money. I remember I got a $3,000 bonus around Christmas time for selling a certain amount of jewelry, and that was like, I might as well have made $1 million to be that young and have that kind of money. But I felt like a grown-up. I would come home and I was wearing a skirt and pantsuit. I would kick off my heels and have a glass of Arbor Mist. You guys ever had Arbor Mist? What even was I doing? And I felt like a grown-up. But then I got in a massive car accident. A car accident that almost killed me. I got my tonsils taken out. I was healing from that, and while I was getting my healing from my tonsils, I bought a car, finally, so I didn't have to take the city bus anymore. Bought a car from my ex-boyfriend's parents, and had it for 2 days. I was driving out in, it's a super dark area, I can't remember the name, Joe Max Road, didn't used to have any houses, and I plowed into the back of a black Jeep without any lights on, out in the middle of a desert road. Completely obliterated my car. I had to be cut out of it. I had lacerations in my eyes. It burnt my face with the airbag, and such a bad experience to have just bought my car finally as a young teenager to get to my jobs and not have to ride the city bus, and had it for 2 days and it was totaled. So that was rough. And it was a salvage title, so I couldn't even claim it on insurance to get any money back because it was a salvage title. My dad told me, kid, you're going through a hard time. I have a work truck now. You can borrow my Ford Explorer if you go to church. Okay. So he said, as long as you're going to church on Sunday, and then they had singles ward, which is for young singles. If you go on Monday night as well, as long as you're going to church, you can borrow my truck. Went twice, got hit in the face by a volleyball, and my ex-husband noticed me. 13 days later, we were engaged, and we were married for 11 years. And there's so much within that 11 years that is good, and there's so much that taught me a lot. And I truly, truly believe that my marriage ended because of religion, because of what I was taught in the Mormon church and my feelings about it, because of some of the things that were going on, in a severe way I felt towards some things that were going on. But we have a great relationship. Our daughters are 15, and one turned 9 today. So super good co-parent relationship. We get along great. My fiance and my ex-husband get along great. But a lot happened in that time as well. Things that I had nothing to do with that hurt, and I had to heal. I went through 8 years of marital counseling. I was able to be a part of a group that actually helped other women heal. And then wrapping up some of these crazy things, got breast implant illness. And I ended up needing to get my breast implants taken out. Super sick for over a year, having a really hard time getting out of bed. There was nights where I felt like if I go to sleep, I'm not gonna wake up. That's how sick I felt. Found out that there was a page on Facebook called Breast Implant Illness and Healing, and I researched it, and all the symptoms that I'd been feeling were listed in this page. So I started discovering like other women. This page was only at 1,200 people when I got started, and now it's like at hundreds and hundreds of thousands now. This was in 2016 that I got my implants taken out. But I went to Costa Rica by myself to have this surgery done. I was there for 3 weeks. Really, really hard experience, but a really beautiful experience. I came home, and right when I got home, I got the phone call from pathology from the doctor that I had large cell anaplastic large cell lymphoma. I went through my entire pregnancy with my second daughter with cancer. And it's funny because I had said it to a couple people. If someone were to just tell me that I had cancer, I'd believe them, because that's how sick I feel. Turns out I did. Thankfully, with this specific form of cancer, it's only located in the seroma fluid, or the liquid surrounding the implant. And when you get them out the proper way, if you can get them out intact, then you have a 99% chance of getting over all of it. I had a little bit harder time getting over it. I did a lot of the Gerson therapy so I wouldn't have to have any kind of treatment. I did raw veganism for quite a while. I did the whole protocol, and it was really difficult, but I healed myself. I have a lot of experience in holistic healing because I was able to heal myself in that time, and I felt quite a lot better. Fast forward to 2019, I think that it might have had something to do with this, but there's not a single doctor that can tell me why. It was Quinn's birthday. Oh my gosh, this is the anniversary of it. Wow. 2019, I was getting ready for Quinn's birthday party. Her birthday's today. And I just felt super hot all of a sudden. I was like sweating so bad, and I don't sweat. And all of a sudden my arms started hurting so bad. And I was like, that's really weird. What's going on? And then I felt like I had to crack my back. I was like, ugh, my friend was over helping get it ready for the party. Everyone was on their way over. I'm like, will you try to pop my back? It tries to pop my back, doesn't help. I'm like rolling around on the bed trying to find a position that's comfortable. I have no idea what's going on. My back is killing me. My arm feels dead. I'm starting to lose all sensation in my hands. I'm sweating. Like my mouth feels numb. And all of a sudden he says, Caitlin, you're having a heart attack. He used to be an EMT. And I was like, that's impossible. I'm 32. And he's like, no, you're having a heart attack. And I had an Apple Watch at the time, and I had the little tester, and we did the heart odometer, and it looked insane. I've never seen anything like it. So I run downstairs, and like have Quinn come upstairs, and I'm like, Quinn, I'm so sorry. I think I have to call an ambulance. And she's terrified. My oldest daughter, Lily's terrified. Ambulance comes, they take my EKG, and they're like, we have to get you to the hospital, lights and sirens right now. I don't know if any of you are health professionals, but there's troponins that are released in your blood when you're having a heart attack, and it's an enzyme. People that have enzymes of 2 can die from a heart attack. Mine were at 23. I went to doctor after doctor after doctor to figure out why that happened. I went to blood oncology doctors. Every specialist, no one could tell me why. 2 separate times they went in surgery to put stents in my heart. Both times there were no blockages. No one knows why that happened. I got out of the hospital a week later, and we were having Quinn's birthday party again, had everything set up. Everyone was on their way over again. I ran to the store to get her a cake, and on the way home, I had the start of a second heart attack. This one was equally bad. Spent another week in the hospital, and still no answers. And finally, after a year and a half, well, actually 2 years, finally saw a new cardiologist and explained my whole story. And he says, have you ever heard of broken heart syndrome? And I was kind of flooded with emotion because up until then, I had been going through quite a lot. When you have a heart attack, especially if you're a woman under 40, did you know that the mortality rate the highest percent of mortality rate for women under 40 that have a heart attack is suicide? Because I didn't. I struggled endlessly with thoughts that I had never had before. And finally, I had that doctor tell me, have you ever heard of broken heart syndrome? Where you can be under so much stress or so much pressure or sadness that the heartstrings start to weaken and can cause heart failure and heart attacks. I was overwhelmed with the most incredible motivation in that moment to fix my life, to get financially stable, to get financially free, to find a way to make an income and a living for me and my daughters that would not kill me. Stress, I knew was uncomfortable. Stress, I knew was difficult to deal with. We all deal with it. I didn't know it could kill you. I take what I do super seriously because I have to be able to do what I do to provide an income for my kids. I was a single mom for 8 years. I had to do it on my own. How am I going to leave the house every day when I'm in the hospital, in and out, doctor's appointments constantly? I don't feel good. After that happened, something happened in my body that caused a crazy storm of just constant, unbelievable pain. And I live that way, and that's okay. I'm really glad I'm resilient because I know a lot of people live with daily pain or ailments that make it hard to leave their house, make it hard to go to work and maintain a regular job. It's difficult. So to have that experience, to know, okay, something's got to change. I have been doing everything, the microblading training, trying to do permanent jewelry. And then once I finally saw all these moms dancing and on their couches and in their pajamas on Instagram, like we've all seen, all of a sudden saying that they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars from digital and affiliate marketing. I'm like, digital marketing, affiliate marketing, I don't know how to do any of this. And I started diving in with the firm knowing that I was going to make it work. And when I did, I was going to share it with the world, and I was going to walk them through how they can do it themselves, because this, I truly believe, has saved my life. I can work from home, I can be with my kids, I can schedule doctor's appointments when I need. If there's a day that I just cannot get out of bed, I don't. It's been the biggest blessing, and I know there are millions of people that could benefit hugely from the same blessing. So I want to do this podcast not just to share about how to make money online, but how you can use your story, just like I've been able to do, to make a better life for yourself, to make an income for yourself, and change your family's lives. Get over the things that you feel like hold you down and stop you from being who you want to be because it's painful. Turning those things into something that can bring you the life that you want, and share the stories that you've been through to help other people. You might not think that you have something to share right now. When you think about it, you're like, maybe I don't have some magnificent story. Maybe I don't have some like defined niche or audience that I could talk to. But I promise you, if you stick with me, I'm gonna help you bring it out. I'm gonna show you that you are special, that you have a story to share, and there are millions of people all around the world. If we can build your page up, we'll find you. Hundreds and thousands of people want to hear your story and will stick by you, and you can help them. I promise. This is why I'm doing what I do. I hope you'll join me. I've got many more stories to share and all of my tips and tricks to teach you the way that I got to multiple six figures and a couple 100,000 followers on Instagram in less than 1 year. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me on Your Breakthrough Podcast. Remember, your story has the power to change your life and inspire others. Don't settle for anything less than the good life that's meant for you. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a review so we can keep the momentum going. Keep at it until your journey is your biggest triumph. Until next time.